you know, like the long range thing wasn't, especially with who I learned to hunt from, is like, well, you know, it's not real ethical to shoot over 400 yards, right? I mean, I shot my first cow elk as a 12-year-old at 350, and everybody was telling me like how amazing that, like, that's a long ways, that's a long shot, you know, just so many, well, even with archery, right? I mean, back then I thought I was dropping bombs at 50 yards, right? And, you know, now
But they were.
Yeah.
At the time, with the techniques, with the equipment, with the learnings that we had as an industry and as people, it was.
Yeah, the optics I had on that first gun, the gun itself, I mean, I think it was an old Springfield 30-06 that my grandfather had that was passed down to me. And that scope was, I mean, just awful, you know, everything about it. So the technologies have really come so far. But you guys really have been on the cutting edge of this long range stuff from the beginning. I mean, you're really one of the people that started it.
Yeah, you look at the state of the art when, like, I got into guns and the magazines I was taking in, and you look at, like, there was Mark Bansner, there was Melvin Forbes with Ultralight Arms, there was Lex Weberneck, there was Jarrett, and these guys are like, they're like the guys. They dominated. Like, you go to the Safari Club, like, that's who was there, and that's who the wealthy people bought guns from. And at the same time, at the time, like, the concept of doing a custom gun was something for the elite guys.
Yeah,
like, it was pretty special. Like, most of us were hoping to maybe buy something from Remington's custom shop.
Sure.
And I think inherently I recognized that custom gun actually didn't deliver anything that you couldn't get out of a good shooting Remington. You take a Remington, you bet it, you shoot it, break it in good. It's like, it would shoot a good group, and that custom gun wasn't offering anything else. And that concept of Gunworks was a turnkey system. Like,
the full package.
It's 1,000 yards out of the box. It's the full package. So when something doesn't work, we don't say, oh, you need to try a different load, or must be the scope, right? I mean, we own every piece of that and did from the very beginning.
How do you do that in the beginning of, like, it's enough to just say, I want to make a gun, a really good shooting gun, but then how do you then at the same time develop your own ballistics and also do optics? I mean, how did you tackle that as a new business owner?
I was young enough that I didn't understand what failure was. So it's just this, you know, insatiable appetite to conquer the world, combined with no experience of failure, and so no fear.
Sure. Yeah. I look at that's how I look at a guy like Elon Musk, right? At what he goes, what one person can be involved in and accomplish. And he obviously has that to a super degree of just, like, there's no thought of failure. It's just, I'm going to do this, and then he just does it.
I think he's just like every other entrepreneur and founder. I think he thinks about failure all the time.
Really?
I think so.
The fear, like, almost.
He may have achieved a place where there isn't fear of that, but I promise you, like, sleeping on the floor at Tesla to try to achieve something, like, the fear of failure is driving him.
Yeah.
It's there. That monster is there chomping at the heels. I think what he's been able to combine is that same attitude of unbounded appetite to do, and with the resources. Like, he can muster the resources to achieve it. That's what makes him special.
There is something there with, maybe it's not necessarily that he doesn't have a fear of failure, but more of a confidence that he will succeed. Like, I remember people telling me, like, when I was telling them what I wanted to build with MKC, hey, it's a hunting knife that's going to cost $300, and I'm going to make it all here in America. And how many people were just like, well, you can't do that, and then no one's going to buy it. Like, they're making really nice, you know, Chinese-made knives for $69. Like, your customers are never going to buy that. And I don't know what the thing was in my head, but I just had absolute confidence that, like, no, they're going to buy it, and I can make it. And I don't know why. I had no reason to believe that I could, because I didn't have any background in it, any knowledge in doing it, but I was just like, I know it can be done.
From our earlier discussions, it sure sounds like you had the right type of support team that was pushing you to go.
Yeah, I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, when you have a wife that just believes in you and is just like, go do it. That was a game changer for me when I married her, because right before her it was like single dad, 4 kids, working a day job. There was not much light at the end of the tunnel at that moment. And then all of a sudden when you have someone behind you that's just like actually encouraging you to quit your job, and I was saying, well, hold on, that would be a little reckless at the moment. But then when she keeps saying it, and then finally it gets to a point where I came up against a wall one day where I needed December 31st off, and I was out of vacation, and I had vacation resetting on the 1st of January, and I kept arguing with my boss, like, we can figure this out, but I need this day off. I have to go meet this person. Like, I have to. And it was just like, corporate, like, well, no, you're out of vacation. The computer system says you're out. You can't, And so December 30th, I walk in and go, did you figure out tomorrow? And he's like, no. And I'm like, all right, I'm done at noon. Like, that's my choice. But the confidence to do that with her behind me is incredible. And then, for a while, the support system of my kids helping, I didn't have employees. It was just my kids and my wife. They were all supportive. And later on, then meeting Brandon, one thing people ask me, like, why'd you wait so long to start your business? And I think I was pretty self-aware at 20, 25 years old, and I had different goals at that moment, but like, I knew what I didn't know. And then I struggled as a custom knife maker for 10 years. And part of the business I struggled with was like marketing yourself. As a custom gun maker, a custom knife maker, you're not only the designer and creator, you're the marketer, and it feels real douchey to talk about yourself and promote yourself, because you also really do respect the other gun maker across the aisle at the show.
But it's not just that. You recognize that you're not the ultimate. I have a really hard time when my guys say, oh, we're the best in the world. I'm like, no, you don't get to say that. Mm-hmm. You get to say what we are, that's provable, that's real. Mm-hmm. And I've always been reticent for me to step up and say, well, I'm, something special. So it's like you always have this sense of downplaying. It's because we're so aware of the reality of what the world is and who's out there and sure. what the awesome stuff that's getting done by everybody else.
Yeah, you even today were walking around, you were complimenting Seekins on some of their stuff that they're doing. And the other thing is, in this industry, I did enough custom shows forever and became close to the custom knife makers. It was really a family. Like, we're kind of quote unquote competing, but we didn't look at each other like the enemy. And then I got into this space, and in the manufacturing space, like, they look at each other like they're enemies, and it's corporate and it's lawyers and contracts. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, customers are going to buy lots of different knives. They're going to buy lots of different guns. Like, I just want them to have one of ours or a couple of ours, right? And maybe then that's our job to do it so well and give them such a good experience that they want to buy more of ours. But I'm not out there trying to market and tell people how shitty everyone else's stuff is. We're going to do it as best as we can, And people are going to buy, if you get offended because one of your better customers goes out and buys a Seekins gun, like, you're just going to be in the wrong mindset.
I think I have 3 Seekins guns.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And I even on my Instagram, I try to highlight even like custom knife makers or other guys from time to time. Like, if what we're doing can help raise up the industry as a whole, especially those guys that are custom making and trying to survive in their basement or their garage doing what they're doing, it's cool. In
the rifle space, there's a lot of gun builders. Mm-hmm. You can, there's so many action stock barrel guys, and even now, like pre-fit barrels, like there's a lot of guys that can assemble guns, and they don't have to have a huge staff. They don't have to have a huge shop, and they can do one-off work, and they can do really good stuff. And I think, for me, understanding, okay, there is this product that's out there, mm-hmm. and to be able to not be concerned about that, because if we were, we'd be in trouble, because those guys don't pay insurance. They don't pay,
right.
excise tax in a lot of cases.
They don't have engineers on their staff.
Exactly.
And you guys are doing something there's a lot of guys, I know some of them out there that really are wizards at taking great components from different places and putting together a really great gun. Like, for sure there are, but you guys are making those components. That's what I think it's so hard to get across, like, even with what we're doing, like, it's so hard to, you have to engineer and you have to make and test those components.
And not just one.
Right.
You have
hundreds or thousands, and then they all have to be within a certain tolerance to go together and fit well together and perform. On the gun level, I mean, we're lucky. On the knife level, I say that as we're working through right now the engineering and the testing of a folding knife. It's a little different because those components have to work together. They have to lock together the tolerances, right? The blade has to center and all these different things. So, but with a gun, all those little pieces and parts of that action and everything have to work so well together. And then you can't have variation in your process. And you also have to have really good enough people in your process to catch issues and mistakes as they happen and solve them.
Yeah, I like that thing you had on the board downstairs that said quality is, what you do when nobody's looking, or matters when nobody's looking. So I agree with that 100%. It's especially as you scale and get bigger, controlling quality is one of the biggest challenges. And I think as we've invested more and more into designing, that awareness of how far upstream you can build quality into a product. I don't think a lot of people realize how hard it is to do a gun system that uses the same ammunition over and over again. Like these guys that do a great job assembling a rifle and other components, they have this luxury of tailoring a load and a bullet for that gun.
That's a great point.
And we don't do that. Like, we make this load and this load for 7 PRC.
It has to shoot out of every gun.
It has to shoot in every gun. And then the next challenge comes from, I need to make that ammo shoot the same 5 years from now.
Are you guys making your own ammo as well?
Yes. We do brass. We don't do bullets, but we do brass. We run like Burger. We run a copper with hammer. We've done a lot with Hornady in the past. Hornady does a pretty good job on their ELD match, so we kind of push people that way if they want to go that way. But so we do a set of ammo there. And like, I had a guy call up the other day. He had a 6XC, which is kind of like a 6 Creedmoor, and he shot that gun 10 years ago. It sat in the safe for a long time. He gets it out. He gets some ammo from us, and he goes and shoots it, and he drills his target at 900 yards. So 10 years later, he's getting the same performance as when he left off. And I think
that's amazing.
That piece of the equation is actually the hardest thing that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we make barrels, we make carbon stocks, we make actions, we make all these parts, we make suppressors, we make everything. The hardest thing we do is try to control that ammo from lot to lot. And a lot of people don't realize you do a custom gun, you get a custom load, you come back to that builder 2 or 3 years later, let's say you're not loading, you say, hey, I need some more ammo. And he goes, gets the card and loads it up. He doesn't have the same components.
You're right.
Right? Or if you do the same thing as a loader, like, how do you get back to that data? That is one of the hardest things, especially as we start talking about long range. You have to control those things.
And are you loading that ammo in Cody?
Yeah.
So I don't think people quite understand. Like, most people probably that are listening has never been to Cody, Wyoming. To build even what we're building here in Frenchtown or Missoula, really it's Missoula. It's Missoula proper. I mean, there's 100,000 people in this area or so right in there. And we think it's hard because we're looking at the people that are our quote-unquote competition in the market that are doing this in Portland or Seattle or LA or wherever, right, where huge metropolitan areas where you have so much talent to choose from and employees you can steal from, even outside of your industry, right? Like, Benchmade can steal employees from Bowtech or Loophole, right? Like, making a part, when you run a mill and you make scope rings and you're Loophole, you're just making parts. That mill just looks at it as another part. You can walk across the street and make a knife part, right? So they have all these people they can steal from. You're doing it in a town of 10,000 people. And then attracting talent to, like, hey, do you want to move from Denver, Colorado, or Birmingham, Alabama, or New York? to Cody, Wyoming, right? Like that's a hard recruiting sell, right? So you have to have such a draw to your brand. You have to have a story that's something that a future employee or a current employee can say, I want to be a part of that, something bigger. It's not a job. It's a way of life. It's a culture fit. Like, how has that been for a challenge for you guys to build over 20 years?
You know, I've always been a product-focused guy, so that system, the perfection of the system, I'm driven to achieve that with technology, manufacturing excellence, whatever. Like, you probably don't know this, we introduced the first laser rangefinder with a real-time ballistic solver in it.
Really?
We did. We didn't have one competitor for over 5 years.
Wow.
So we introduced that in 2011. So now we have this system: ammo, rifle scope, ballistic rangefinder.
Yeah.
And for 5 years, we didn't have a competitor. The first competitor we had was Leica with their HDB binos, and we helped them with the system to load a data table onto their bino just to do an interpolation. So it didn't even do a real-time calculation. And then the first real competitor was the SIG product that came a few years after that. Mm-hmm. So like almost uncontested space out of a little company in Cody, Wyoming. We controlled that market for that long. And now we have tons of follow-on products now. We've kind of matured our optics into a brand called Revic.
Okay.
But if you go look at Revic and you start digging into the technology, we do our own software, we do our own firmware, do our own electrical circuit layout. We engineer and design those things, manufacture, quality control. You know, most of these big companies that are doing it, they're sourcing that out, either with a consulting firm or their Asian manufacturing partners. It's like we have built capabilities in-house that really are unmatched, even by these $500 million a year companies that are out there.
How have you done that? You must have found some really good talent to come along that you can, designate some work to those guys or trust them to say like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want you to help me build this. Or have you personally just done a ton of it yourself?
I'm at that founder's dilemma stage because I'm involved with everything. Like yesterday and on the trip up here, like I'm working on the UI for a Gen 3, range finding product, right? And this is wide open landscape. We're using a OLED display. It's a active matrix, so you can just basically do anything. And so you have this wide open landscape of what you can do, and you go back to first principles. It's like, well, what am I trying to do? How can I help the work stream be more efficient and faster? And I don't have anybody that can do that for me. I run that. You go look at our ballistic app. I've got $2 million into that app that we give away for free. It's like that thing, that UI, every piece of that has my fingerprints on it. You go look at our manufacturing facility, like bringing up rifle barrels or, the next piece. It's like I'm involved in all that. And so that I'm at that spot where for us to do more and to get bigger, we need more people. But I have a handful of guys that are just absolute rock stars and girls that from operations or the electrical engineering and software, because I can understand code, but I don't write code.
Right.
I've got a few of these people that are just that have given me the resources to be able to achieve some of this vision that I have.
Well, there again, then you do all that and you still haven't even started to market it and ship it, right? And that's what is so hard with a founder led and driven business, and especially a manufacturing business where you're manufacturing, you're designing, you're innovating, you're also manufacturing, which has all of its own challenges, and then you're finishing, and then also marketing and distributing, right? And so many people have stuff manufactured and then they send it off to a warehouse where then it gets someone else, a different team markets, or a different company markets it, and then a different place, Amazon, fulfills it.
I make a joke, and take this for what it is. I'm kind of joking about the Gunworks way. And the Gunworks way is, why would I let them do it? We're smarter and we can do it better, so we're going to do it. And that hurts us so many times, because when you bring things in and either to integrate to manufacture, to market, to message. It's like, it's so hard to do everything. And it's probably why it's taken me so long to get to where we're at.
That's like with building this new building, like I'm just behind where you are by some years, but I want to build this.
Your trajectory is steep right now.
And I want to grab and bring in this and bring in that. And I want to be able to control this process and control that. And I see some of our quality issues we have to deal with. And it's like, well, if we just did it, we wouldn't deal with that, right? Or we would head that off way earlier in the process and we would care more. And but then you just compound the headaches. But I also think, like, in the end, we're going to get old and we're going to die, right? I find this problem solving stressful, but very fun. More fun than stressful. Like, I love the problem. I love the challenge of trying to do something that everyone else is saying you can't do. Or I love the challenge of doing it all instead of just part of it, right? And if anything else, to get to the end of life and be like, boy, I screwed that up and I screwed that up, but like in the end, we either did it really well or at least it was a blast. Like we tried. We didn't sit around on our couch and talk about it like we did it. And I did sit around on my couch for 20 years and talk about it. But I didn't just talk about it. Like, I built the vision of this in my head, like time and time and time again. So people can say maybe there's luck involved, and I won't argue at all that, like, it takes some luck to have things go well and go right. But man, there's a lot of intentionality too. Like,
yeah,
this looks in my head exactly like I thought it would, or I thought it could.
I think there's something about a founder that I think the ability to create a future vision, right? And then to manifest it through almost your force of will. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people don't have is the ability to create that image or that vision. Mm-hmm. And so what, it took you 20 years to find the catalyst to go that way. Mm-hmm. The concept of envisioning what it could be and where it could go. Just like you said, guys are like, well, why would somebody buy a $300 knife? Mm-hmm. Like, you had no doubt, right? Because you could see that. You could see into the future and see what that looks like. And we started off talking about Elon Musk. It's like, imagine what his vision is, right? He shares some of it with us. But I think that's what's special about a founder, is being able to create that from whole cloth.
I took a half-hour of vacation time and set up a phone call between me, Evan Hafer, and Matt Best at Black Rifle Coffee in the summer of 2019. I stood on the side of our job site where we were putting underground power in Miller Creek in Missoula, and I told those two on the phone that I was going to build this company and we were going to work together. And I asked them some tips and some things, like from a business perspective of founding a business, much like a lot of the Instagram messages and stuff I get today from other people. They ask, how'd you do this or how'd you do that? And I didn't get a hell of a lot out of that conversation from them because, you know, they're busy and it's like, I don't know, man, you got to do it. Like, I can't lay it out for you. But I did tell them, I'm going to build Montana Knife Company. Like, we're going to work together someday. And I had this like idea and vision of like what it was going to be. And like last month, we just sold a couple thousand bags of coffee with Black Rifle Coffee, right? And we're going to have a Black Rifle Coffee store in our new retail space in our warehouse, our manufacturing center we're building. Like, yes, I had that idea. I said it was going to happen, but then you like manifest it. And
I've thought about this a lot, but it is that will sometimes is that all that separates success from abysmal failure. Mm-hmm. It's like you hold it there, a fine thread sometimes, but that's what does it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other challenging part that we found was, just on the financial end of that balance between like borrowing money, taking on investment. Do you take on investment? Right. I don't know if it was stubbornness, ego, maybe also just not understanding that world. So even being scared to go down that road. But, as we started to grow, we have people starting to approach us like, well, we want to invest, or we want to buy your company, or, you could do a lot more if you join this big conglomerate, and they could throw, and it's like, you guys are out of knives all the time. We could sure fund all that, material and all the machines you need in that new building. Like, and it's easy to look at.
Tempting.
It's tempting to look at it and be like, man, my vision could come a lot faster if I took that $20 million check and just put it into a building and just go poof, right? But I also then think the story that we've been telling and the customers have been supporting is watching a guy grow it from his garage and just bootstrapping it. How have you found that balance to be between how much risk you take to borrow money and how much you put your family at risk, and the temptation to give up control for investment, but also then grow your company more? Like, what's that been like for you?
I actually brought on some partners when I started, and worked with some guys, and it was a total disaster. It would be really, really hard for me to give up control of what I've built. In fact, no amount of money would ever make it worth it. Like, if you're out, just might as well be out.
Right.
From the risk side, dude, I'm all in. I don't get anything out of running Gunworks. I've put more money into that in the last 3 years than I've got out. Like, I'm all in. Like, everything's leveraged, everything's signed on. Like, it's sink or swim, all in.
Same. Yeah, it's the employees. Actually, I think it was good for them this summer. We were having a meeting, and there was a guy walking around measuring our buildings. And this is my home property. It's where I live. He's measuring my knife shop. He's measuring my house. And it was like, who's that guy? What's he doing? And it's like, that's the appraiser for the bank to get the loan to buy the land. Like, Brandon and I are putting our homes up for collateral, right? Like, if this doesn't work, we lose everything. And I think for some of our employees, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they're not just getting rich and just putting all this money that we're selling from knives into their pocket. Like, when they say they're putting it back in, like, you don't buy all those CNC machines and hire all those people and fill that room up in a year and a half by putting tons of money in your pocket.
Yeah, I was looking at some numbers from last year. I think our payroll nut was $7 million. Like, that is, you look at the families, it's like there's
in a 10,000 person town.
Yeah. That is a huge, like, that failure. Like, I always picture it as I heard this once, you've grabbed a tiger by the tail. Yeah. It's like, you can't let go.
Right. Yeah, because it'll eat you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I just, I worked 10 years as a lineman in the corporate world, right? And I still remember going to work, be there by 7, sit there, wait for the bell to ring, be told when you can do this, told when you can do that. Now, there was safety and security in that. You're never going to be rich, but you're never going to be poor. You're going to probably retire someday. They're going to let you take 3 weeks off during the year. But I sat around there just thinking, like, I can do so much more. Like, and it was such a...
Not everybody's wired that way, though. Like, that I think, just the quick tour that we had today and spending some time around your people, like, I think that experience that you had was every bit as important as your custom knife making experience. Because if you go downstairs and look, you can tell that your people don't have that job. They don't have a corporate dictatorship.
Right.
Like, everybody was energized. That energy is infectious. Like, it's great. And that doesn't come from your knife making experience. That comes from that other work experience. Everything that we've gone through to get here has enabled us to do what we do.
And I tell them down there, like, I don't have a hard and fast set start time. Like, hey, if you got to get your kid to the bus at 7:45 because you're a single dad, then come in at 8. But if you want to start at 7 and be off at 3:30 or 4 or whatever, and go hit the woods, then start at 7, start 6:30 or 7. Now, we have to coordinate some things and make sure if you're working with 5 other people in a sheath process, we got to find a balance. We got to work as a team. But I don't want it to be a dictatorship, And I also worked in a place where it felt like a crabs in a bucket mentality, where let's say a foreman retires and a foreman job comes up. All of a sudden, the journeymen are all talking shit about each other. And, Aaron, he's stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's a terrible leader of people. And there was just like this terrible, like, around 40 and 50-year-old men. It was catty and it felt dirty. And you realize that you think your buddies on your crew really love you, but then you go to the next crew and they're shit talking. And in the end, they really all do love you. Like, if you really needed something, they'd be there for you. But I tell my employees, like, if I come down and I hear you talking shit about one of our other family members, like, you're fired. Like, it just will not happen. You are going to succeed, fail, rise to the top, do whatever in this company
together,
based strictly together and on your own merit and accomplishments, like not by tearing somebody else down. And I just love but you said it to me, like moving into that new building as we grow and as we hire 100 more people, like, how are you going to keep that? You know, that's our biggest challenge for sure. And you're right. And I don't have that solved. Like, I just think it's through constantly repeating that mantra and making sure that your managers truly believe to their core that same mission.
Yeah.
You know?
No, we haven't solved that problem either. That is,
how many employees do you have?
We cracked 100 this year.
Okay. Yeah. You know, Evan told me at Black Rifle that everything kind of changes at 50.
Yeah.
I think that was about right. Like, you know, you hire a few people one week and then you can't hardly remember their names for a while, and you don't necessarily know their wife's name or as much personal backstory. Because I used to work shoulder to shoulder with them so much in that old shop that I knew everybody inside and out. And that's something I struggle with. And I've actually tried a little bit more lately of like, I got to schedule time to just be down there with them on that floor and getting to know them. Last night we went and met at a brewery here in Missoula, and I bought everyone pizza and beers. We ended up with probably 35 people down there and just bought them all pizza and beers, and we just hung out for no reason. It's just a Thursday night, you know. We actually watched the drop, but that wasn't the reason. But it's to also just try to get outside of the work setting and have them see like, hey, Josh is a real normal guy, and also get to know their coworkers better.
One of the cool things we've been able to do the last few years, and this comes from one of my guys, not from me, is picking up a few ranches and leasing those ranches with animal quota and then making those available to people inside our company.
That's
so
cool.
We have a couple annual hunts. One of them is over in Buffalo. We've got a ranch leased, and we get to go stay in this old ranch house. And, you know, usually a couple of us on the leadership will go over and help, but the guys will put their name in a hat, they draw, you know, they get to go hunt deer, elk, antelope.
That's awesome.
And I mean, we've killed a couple deer that are, you know, pushing 190 and some 320-inch bulls. And
but that also shows your customers that the people like at Gunworks are legit. They're end users of the product too.
Oh, for sure.
And that's true with us. Like, these guys are going hunting this weekend, and they're actually living the life of the product that they're making. And I think that's important to customers, that they see like, oh, that Gunworks place that sells those, custom rifles, like they're people that are building those are users of it.
I can guarantee you that we don't have any liberal anti-gun people working at Gunworks.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, exactly. I think Cody's a pretty safe place just in general to probably choose employees, but it's a little sketchy around Missoula College Town.
Yeah, we noticed it out to dinner last night. For
sure. Where do you see Gunworks going in the next 5 years? Like, what are you working on?
For me, Gunworks itself, it's been about a 2-decade journey for me. The Nexus rifle that I showed you, right, the one that we're doing the Makers Project with, that was a ground-up design. Like, to me, the building the systems to ideate, create, manufacture, sell, service, etc., original products is what I envision there for Gunworks. And so if you look at that rifle system, that's a long journey of building the skill sets and the knowledge to be able to do something new. I can remember back 10, 12 years ago, we were like, okay, well, we're ready to do an action because we can't get the features we want.
Yeah.
And so we design an action and try to put it in the marketplace and stub our toes completely and don't ship product for 6 months because we have a problem.
Yeah.
And this one little problem, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to figure out what it is. finally getting over that hurdle. Every time you do something new, you expose yourself to massive risk. And we stub our toe once in a while because we're unrelenting in innovation, and it just happens.
Yeah.
But if you look at what that Nexus represents, we did all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Every screw, pin, every feature intentionally chosen and designed. And then to execute it, to put it in production, to refine it, to make it work well. That to me is an inflection point of, okay, now the next thing. And what I've been building is an organization that can do awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So you look at you got a marketing, you got a sales, you got kind of the last frontier for me was a product team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got a product team now where we've got product managers and like it's basically getting rid of myself in that loop. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just the big ideas that are left. But that to me is been my recent passion is Gunworks as this entity, this organization that can do sophisticated, awesome projects.
Well, and that thing is awesome. I mean, elephant leather sewn onto it. The collab you did with Francesca at Teton Leather. The scope, the sling that comes with it. It comes with one of our Speedgoat Ultra knives with the carbon fiber handle, custom leather sheath. In that case, like that. God, that thing is it's amazing.
Yeah.
And even just like I just kind of held it up like I normally hold a gun. And you're like, wait, no, put your thumb here. It was designed like this, and it's like, oh, God, it feels like you designed it that way. Yeah. It's just like every feature, every detail thought about. And I think I've never been a big, huge gun guy from the standpoint of like a gun nerd or a gun freak, right? Because so much of my life, I couldn't afford to buy any anyway, to be honest. I mean, I had 4 kids under the age of 6. I'm a custom knife maker. The best I could hope for maybe, and I never even did it, I just thought about it over the years, like someday maybe I'll trade a nice knife for a nice custom gun. But I could never buy much for guns. I've had my old Remington gun, 7mm I won at an Army F auction when I was 16, and my old 30-06, right? Like, so the idea of buying a custom gun was just never a thing. So I never spent a ton of time nerding out on it, but I love to go shoot. I love to hunt. But then after starting this company and doing what I've done the last 4 years, I started meeting some more people from the gun industry, but I also gained this unbelievable respect of what it took to design and manufacture a gun. Like as a custom maker, I always admired the high-end custom guns, but I never paid attention to more of the production side of like what it takes to design and produce dozens or hundreds or thousands of guns at a really high level with a high level of accuracy and quality. And now I find myself like diving down that rabbit hole more and more, and I can actually afford a gun now. But it's just so cool seeing what you guys do. And I look at that, and sometimes I look at our fairly simple knives and go, God, I'm struggling to figure out how to do these. How in the hell are these guys doing these guns? Like
the elephant leather on the gun's a pretty good reminder. You just do it one bite at a time, right?
Yep.
That's how you eat an elephant.
Yep.
One bite at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we've learned a lot in 4 years, but, and you, like you say, you stub your toes. And that's part of why also I was unwilling to take giant risks and go borrow tons of money or say like, oh, we've got it figured out. We're going to go spend $5 million on CNC machines and just buy them and put them in, because I knew the toe stubbings were coming. I just didn't know from where.
Yeah.
It's like walking blindfolded through the woods and you're going to run into a branch. You just don't know when.
Yeah.
My
guys get tired of me because I force feed them a lot. Like when I'm ready to move and I'm ready to go somewhere, we go and everybody has to catch up.
Yeah.
So you look, Gunworks is going one way, but I'll tell you, man, I'm really, really excited about this optical company that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I've got a pretty big mission there, and we're gonna do some really cool stuff. I've got 80,000.
And you said Revics?
Revic.
Revic.
Yeah, it stands for Revolutionary Optics. You go look at our products, and what we're creating and doing is it's different. Like it's not just me putting a brand on somebody else's thing. Like we are developing, we are innovating, we are bringing something new to the space, more value to the customer.
So is that scopes, binos,
Yeah,
rangefinders?
Rangefinders and scopes are the two core products. And so, like, obviously you got mono and binocular, but we have a few accessory products, tripods, spotting scopes, little things outside of that. But the rifle scopes is a really big focus for me. And like my vision is that we onshore some manufacturing. We create something new and we bring that in. I've got 80,000 square feet. I've got an awesome team, and I've got an unsatisfied appetite to do cool shit.
Well, from what you've built with Gunworks, that sounds like a dangerous thing for the rest of the industry, because it seems like you've proven that you're a guy that, like, when you have an unsatisfied appetite, you're going to eat.
Yeah.
And
I never look at it as dangerous for the industry. Like we've got a great relationship with Leopold. I know a half dozen of the people over there. They know we do optics stuff. Yeah. And this is the difference between some companies. We have a great relationship, even though in some respects we compete. And we use their products, even though we have some of our own products.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't always have to be mutually exclusive. And I respect that company and those people a lot because of that viewpoint that they have. It's like we can all be successful together.
Leopold has been so good to us when really they had no reason to be, when we were even much smaller than we are today and younger and whatnot. They were always super down to earth, super kind, willing to share our stuff.
Yep.
Tim Lesser is an amazing human.
Absolutely.
Bruce is a great guy. I love Tim. He's amazing. And Reza works here in Missoula now with our RMEF. But yeah, great company. And what I love about them is I've also gotten to have a really great relationship with SIG and Patrick over at SIG, and I've gone and done some stuff there.
That is a super impressive company.
And what I like is that at times and at places we've done stuff with SIG, or I'll use some SIG stuff, and the Leopold people aren't complaining or bitching or whatever. And they're, we've kind of talked about it, about how they're like, no, there's some really great people over at SIG. And an example of this is when my son shot his moose up in Canada, I did kind of a little video on like how he made the shot, right? And it was a 644-yard shot. He dropped it in its tracks. And I used a SIG rangefinder and a Leupold scope, right? And a Nosler gun. And so there's competing stuff going on there. But both companies were like, that's awesome. Yeah. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, great job.
I won't name some other companies, but there's other companies I've worked with that look at life as a zero-sum game. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, that limits their potential to become a great company. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to call out Leopold for just being totally fucking awesome.
That's great. That's really cool. Yeah, and it shows a lot about who you are, because even though you start making optics, you could immediately start shying away from that or whatever. So, and I feel the same way in the knife industry. There's some brands out there, Dan Winkler with Winkler Knives, a bunch of the veteran community. We've started kind of launching into the tactical line, and a bunch of veteran guys are like, well, I've always carried a Winkler, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is freaking awesome. Dan and Karen are the nicest people you can ever meet in your entire life. I shared, or I had tables at knife shows when we were all just doing custom stuff back when I was 19 and 20 at the New York show, and Karen's bringing her incredible leather work stuff there, and Dan's bringing his knives. I remember when he was starting to do some of the stuff for the SEALs back then, how excited he was about it. I'm like, if you want to buy Winkler knives, buy them all, buy more. Like, I'm all about it, right? Other great people in the industry. I always just say, like, I hope down the road we make something that you also like, that's cool too. I want one of those.
Yeah.
We can all achieve our goals and dreams by just doing our best at what we do and not shit talking other people, And that really came from the only reason I got so good as a knife maker as a kid from 11 to 20.
Looking what everybody else was doing.
And being helped by everybody else. Like when I went to a knife show and I asked a 55-year-old guy as a 13-year-old, hey, how did you do that? And he just took the time to sit down and tell this kid how. And then I went home and did it, right? And he's like, hey, if you need help on that, give me a call. And back then there was no YouTube. There was no social media. Like as a kid, I had to go, I flew to South Carolina and spent a week with George Heron in his knife shop when he was 65 years old. And he just taught me for a week as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. But the only reason I got that good was because people were willing to share. Today, you can go learn about anything on YouTube and not talk to a human. It's kind of amazing.
If you can find the right information.
The right information, it can be dangerous. But the point is that community was so helpful to me, that custom knife making community, that the last thing I would do is grow a brand like we have today and then turn around and shit on it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not required.
No, exactly. Well, we got stuff we got to get to here. Maybe go shoot a gun. But I'm honored to, work on this project with you. I mean, you guys did all the heavy lifting on this, but we're honored to have our knife in that case with that gun. When are you coming out with those? What's that? When's that going to be launching?
That is October.
October, okay.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
Yeah. 50 guns, right?
Yeah.
7
PRC.
7 PRC. I can't encourage people enough to go check this out. When those photos are up, videos are up,
yeah, they go fast. I mean, we do a similar thing in our Gunworks projects. That's basically like an Gunworks has a ethos and a product line that it does. Like, we have a thing that we do. Gunworks is our chance. Well, let's go do something that's completely different. Mm-hmm. And so we've brought some weird stuff, chassis and pistols and other projects. And out of every one of those is a learning that we get.
Yeah.
For here's an improvement that we can incorporate and bring in.
Yeah.
And those are limited as well. I mean,
sure.
Usually a couple hundred units, but those they're gone. They sell 2 or 3 weeks, they're gone.
Yeah.
And when we are able to do one of those, they get great response. This limited edition thing is a little bit more, in my mind, more of an elevation of the core Gunworks ethos product, and then a collaborative effort where we can bring other brands together.
And we appreciate that. In this, we didn't get really into it, but in this world where you try to make posts as a knife or a gun company, you get censored and
you get censored as a knife company.
Oh my God, constant.
So you're just as bad as booze and porn then.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Like guns.
No, it's the same. Yeah, it's evil. Terrible. But by collabing and you allowing us to be into this project and inviting us in, or us collabing with other people on other things, I feel like our customers are a lot of the same type of human, right? Same person, whether it's us or it's a Black Rifle Coffee or a Fieldcraft, or, there's different places throughout the industry, and our customers are shared here and there. And so the only way we can beat that narrative and that stuff that's happening today is by working together.
And I wonder if it begs a little explainer to our listeners, how important subscribing to email newsletters are.
Yeah.
Because it's truly the only uncensored way for us to communicate directly with our people. And for in this collaboration, we're here filming and we're going to tell a story to our subscribers about Montana Knife Company, right? And we're going to make that product and we're going to share it through email. If we just feed it up to YouTube, there's a good chance nobody ever sees it, right? We've got our channel, we'll get our 4,000 or 5,000 views, and it's not going to blow up.
Right.
But when we do it by email, several 100,000 people have an opportunity to partake in that message.
And I understand people, your inbox flooded with lots of stuff. And I don't even blame people. At times they're busy and they see our email come in and they hit delete. Fine, I get it. It's a lot. But it is by staying subscribed and being on our list or being on your list, and taking the time now and then to click on it and see what we're actually up to. Yes, we all want to sell you something, but a lot of times we're also using those lists to tell cool stories. Yeah. It might be a story about a video we shot about our taxidermist that is really cool up in Libby, Montana, right? Or our veterinarian here. We do some real people stories. But it might be a story about a brand we're collaborating with, on this, and what people need to understand by supporting that email list, the impact that you are having in Cody, Wyoming on your local economy, as small towns across eastern Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, Idaho, as they're dying on the vine and struggling, as farms get bought up and these conglomerates start buying more and more land or locking up land, these small towns struggle. If you could repeat the story of Montana Knife Company or Gunworks across this country and other small communities, whether it's making, parts for semiconductors or parts for plane manufacturing or parts for plumbing or whatever. It doesn't have to, if you could just manufacture anything and build a small version of what we're building in our towns all across America, like we're going to have a healthier nation. So by being on those lists and supporting companies like yours, like ours, and all the Seekins, all these other places that are in small areas that are growing American-made manufacturing business, that's what's going to save our country. Like, it's not going to be some politician that gets elected, So that's a good point. I know to the general public, a lot of that looks like just straight up marketing, but I don't think people know how important that is. Like our text message list or our email list, it's our only unfettered way to speak to our customer.
I'll tell you something. You guys might already do this. We started doing a wrap-up email every Sunday where we just basically list what we covered for the week. Mm-hmm. So it helps those guys that are busy all week. They can just tune in for one email, pick the stuff that they want to follow, ignore the rest.
For us, a little bit, that's our vlog on Friday.
Okay.
So every Friday afternoon, it's a video vlog, and like you guys will be in it this week. Henry walks around. Maybe it's something funny going on with the employees downstairs, a rivalry that's happened in the grinding room or whatever. But it's also like, hey, this is a project coming, or this is a knife we're working on, or, Josh went hunting with his son. And with video, it also allows us to include our employees where they feel like it's not just all about Josh, right? It's not just all about Aaron. Like it's about the community and the culture. And you give somebody, especially sometimes a lot of these employees, that you turn the camera on and they're just like, and then they come to me and they're like, that's really hard.
I'm going to send you a video that we did of the gal that assembles bipods.
Yeah.
We call her Bipod Brenda. She's put together 5,000 bipods this year.
Wow.
It was a great video.
That's awesome.
Great content.
But no, those are great. Those are great for customers, like you say, to maybe weed through some of the marketing stuff and just like keep caught up with your company. And companies like yours and ours, it seems like we move fast, that's also, I think, why it's exciting to work at them and to support them as a customer, so, well, thanks for kind of leading the way. And, it's been, I could sit here and just, you and I just sit here and I could just ask you founder questions and business questions for the next 2 days. But
when you come down to Cody and you visit, we'll give you the tour, and maybe we'll get a chance to do that.
Yeah, go have dinner or something and just chat. So thanks a lot. Where can people find you guys?
Gunworks with an E.
Okay. Instagram, Facebook, website.
Yeah, YouTube. Go to YouTube. There's 900 videos. You want to get into long range content.
And customers, by the way, can come out and actually do some shooting with you guys, right? You do some training a little bit.
We do class every week from like April 1st to October 31st, every week. And sometimes there's 2 sets of classes going on every week. There's 3 guys full-time all year round that do training.
Yeah, that's something I think that needs to be for sure highlighted. Like that's not, you can't show up to most gun companies and shoot and learn from the people that are making the guns. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming out.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.